There are hundreds of apps on your phone. One trains your body, one manages your money. But the one machine you run every waking second, the mind doing the wanting, the worrying, the 3 a.m., replaying, has no app, no manual, and no map. Or so most people think. Because it turns out there is a map, and by the end of this lesson, you'll be holding the whole of it. This map has been in circulation for about 2,500 years, and billions of people have used it. It isn't a religion you have to sign up for. No membership, no robes, no belief requirements. At its core, it's something far more practical, a precise description of how the mind manufactures its own suffering, and where that assembly line can be interrupted. The trouble is the name. The moment most people hear it, they back away. Buddhism? Too deep, too foreign, too religious, nothing to do with me. Today, we take that misunderstanding apart. Over this series, I'll walk you through the entire territory, starting from zero, no background needed, nothing to believe, and the only equipment you bring is the set of problems in your life you haven't been able to solve. 3 promises before we start. By the end of this lesson, you'll know why the most influential book in this whole tradition is shorter than most of your emails. You'll meet an illiterate kitchen worker whose words sit on the same shelf as the Buddha's own. And tonight, before you sleep, you'll run your first 60-second experiment on your own mind. This is the map. Right now, every region of it is gray that's honest. We haven't earned any of it yet. But before we light the first region, let's play a quick game. Let's find out how much of what you currently believe about Buddhism is true, and how much is myth. 3 questions. Answer them in your head, keep score, and be honest with yourself. Question 1. To practice Buddhism, do you have to be a vegetarian? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. The answer is not necessarily. The Buddha and his students were wanderers. Every morning they walked the village with a begging bowl, and whatever landed in it was lunch. No menu, no preferences, no sending it back. Vegetarianism grew into a tradition in some regions centuries later, a respected tradition, but never the price of admission. And hear it clearly, this course works exactly the same way. Question 2, and this one is genuinely harder. Buddhism talks constantly about emptiness. You may have seen the word on posters, tattoos, gallery walls. So, does empty mean that nothing is real? That life is meaningless? 3, 2, 1. Wrong again, and if you got this one wrong, you're in excellent company, because it is the single most misread word in all of Buddhism. Empty does not mean things don't exist. It's a claim about times, how times they exist. Look at a wave. A wave is absolutely real. It can soak you. It can knock you over. Now try to lift the wave out of the ocean and take it home. You can't, because wave was never a separate thing. It was water, doing something. Hold that image. We'll spend an entire unit of this course on that one idea. So for now, I'm deliberately leaving it hanging. Last one. Was the Buddha a god? 3, 2, 1. No. And this answer changes how you should approach everything that follows. The Buddha was a human being who actually lived. Historians argue over exact dates, but broadly agree on a real teacher in northern India around 25 centuries ago. He had a family, a home, a son, and, as we're about to see, a spectacular midlife crisis. He never claimed to have created the world, and never promised to answer prayers. What he claimed was much stranger, and much more testable, that he had figured one thing out, and that you could check it for yourself. So, how many did you get? 3 out of 3. You know more than most. 0. Even better, you've just discovered your map of this territory was drawn by rumor. Either way, the 3 biggest boulders are out of the road. No entry requirements. Empty doesn't mean nothing, and the founder was a man, not a god. The map can finally be drawn, and every map needs a starting point. The starting point of Buddhism is not a book and not a temple. It's one man, on one night, working something out. First region of the map, the person. As you listen to his story, notice how little of it requires believing anything supernatural. It's a story about a problem you also have. 2,500. At the boy's birth, a sage had made a prediction. This child will either become a great king, or he'll walk out on all of it and become a wandering seeker. The king, terrified of losing his heir, chose brute force. He built 3 palaces, one for each season, sealed his son inside, and edited the world. No old people at court, no sickness in view, no funerals, ever. Just gardens, music, and comfort, curated around the clock. Now, before we shake our heads at this king, be honest. You carry a version of that palace in your pocket, a feed that's tuned to show you what keeps you comfortable in scrolling, and to quietly filter out what disturbs you. The king's project and the algorithm's project are the same project. Keep the resident happy by controlling what he sees. And the story of Buddhism begins at the exact moment that project fails. The prince lived inside the walls until he was 29, married, a new father, wanting for absolutely nothing. Then one day he rode out beyond the city, and the story says he saw 4 things that tore his worldview apart. The first 3, an old man, bent and trembling, a sick man, lying in his own fever, and a corpse being carried to the burning ground. He'd never seen any of it. He asked his charioteer the question a child would ask, "Will this happen to me too?" And the charioteer gave the only honest answer, "To you, to me, to everyone, no exceptions." But it was the 4th sight that changed history. I want you to guess what was the 4th thing he saw. Don't rush past this actually guess. Here's your hint. The first 3 sights were problems. The 4th was a possibility. The 4th sight was a wandering holy man, someone who owned nothing, no palace, no title, no insurance against anything, yet moved through the same doomed world completely calm. Old age, sickness, and death were now certainties. No palace could cancel. But this stranger was live proof of a 4th option, that it might be possible not to be afraid. That night, Siddhartha left the palace to find that method. And yes, he left a sleeping wife and a newborn son to do it, which should bother you. It bothered him too. The tradition remembers it as the hardest door he ever walked through, because a cure, if it existed, would be for them too. His first attempt was the most respected spiritual method of his era, extreme asceticism. The theory was simple: the body is the problem, so declare war on it. He starved himself, baked in the sun, held his breath until his ears roared. He did this for 6 years, and he was frighteningly good at it. The accounts say you could see his spine through his stomach. Want to guess the result? He came very close to death, and not one step closer to an answer. Then comes my favorite scene. The tale goes that as he lay collapsed by a river, a music teacher drifted past on a boat, tuning a student's instrument, and he overheard one sentence. "Tune the string too tight, and it snaps. Too loose, and it makes no sound. The note lives in between." That one line landed like a key turning. It saved his life, and became the spine of everything that followed. Don't take the extremes, take the middle way. In today's terms, not burnout, not lying flat, a third road runs between them. So he ate a village girl, offered him rice cooked in milk, and he accepted it. His 5 ascetic companions were disgusted and walked out on him. By the scoreboard of their method, he'd just quit. Then he found a large fig tree, sat down beneath it, and made himself one promise: I do not stand up until I understand. And in the hours before dawn, the tradition says, at the sight of the morning star, he understood. Understood times what, exactly? Hold that question. Hold it tightly, because this entire course is, in a very real sense, the answer book to it, and you get your first page of it in about 2 minutes. From that morning, he had 45 years left to live. He spent them building no temples and writing no books, doing exactly one thing. Whoever came with a question, he taught the Dharma, which just means the way things work, and the teaching that describes it in that person's own everyday language. A king asked. He taught. A murderer asked. He taught. A street sweeper asked, and got the same care as the king. He refused worship. His standing instruction was closer to a lab supervisor's than a prophet's. Don't take my word for it. Test it against your own experience. And Buddha was never his name. His name was Siddhartha. Buddha is a job description. It simply means the one who woke up. One famous story shows you his teaching style better than any summary. A young mother, Kisa Gotami, came to him carrying her dead child, half mad with grief, begging for medicine. He didn't lecture her about impermanence. He said, "Bring me a mustard seed, a common kitchen spice from any house where no one has ever died." She went door to door all day. Every single house had a seed to give her, and every single house had a death to tell her about. By nightfall, she understood what no sermon could have told her. She buried her child, came back, and became his student. That's the method. He doesn't hand you conclusions. He designs the walk on which you find them. First stroke of the map, complete. One man, shaken by old age, sickness, and death, tried the extreme of pleasure, tried the extreme of self-punishment, found the road between, woke up, and then taught for 45 years. Which leaves the obvious question sitting right in front of us. What exactly did he teach? That's region 2, and I can already pay off the question I asked you to hold under the tree. Here's what he saw at dawn, in one sentence. Suffering is not a punishment, and not bad luck. It's a times mechanism, a chain of steps, running in the mind, assembling misery the way a factory assembles cars. And anything that's a mechanism can be studied and interfered with. Which is why, if you had to give the Buddha one modern job title, it wouldn't be prophet, and it wouldn't even be philosopher. It would be doctor. In fact, the format of his core teaching is identical to the format your doctor uses today. Think about it when a good doctor sees a patient. What 4 steps do they go through? Really count them out. What's step 1, before anything else can happen? And then what? Isn't it this? First, confirm the symptom, what actually hurts. Second, find the cause, what's driving it. Third, give the prognosis, can this be cured or not. Fourth, write the prescription, the actual treatment plan. The Buddha's central teaching is exactly those 4 steps, in exactly that order. It's called the 4 Noble Truths. Truth 1, the symptom. Something in human life is persistently off. Truth 2, the cause. That offness isn't random, it has a specific, findable driver. Truth 3, the prognosis. This condition is genuinely curable. Truth 4, the prescription. And here is the treatment plan, with concrete steps. One word in there deserves a closer look before next lesson. The word usually translated as suffering. Dukkha times is heavier in English than it is in the original. It doesn't only mean agony. It means something closer to a wheel that's slightly off its axle. The ride works, but every turn has a wobble in it. Think of a genuinely good day that still ends with a faint background hum of something's missing. That hum is dukkha. The diagnosis isn't life is torture. It's far more unsettling and far more accurate. Even when life is good, there's a wobble in the wheel, and you've learned to pretend you can't feel it. Now look at step 3 again, because it's the boldest line on the entire prescription: curable. This is where Buddhism gets misquoted most. People assume the message is, life is suffering, so lower your expectations and endure it. That is the exact opposite of what he said. He's making a clinical claim that this specific condition has a permanent fix. Not a coping strategy, not a pill you take forever, a cure. You are not required to believe that today. But notice what kind of claim it is, specific enough to test. And a testable claim is an invitation, not a doctrine. The full contents of the Four Noble Truths are the whole subject of the next lesson. That's where we open the prescription line by line. Today, you only need to memorize the shape, symptom, cause, prognosis, prescription. Because everything that comes after, including the 3 great texts this course is built around, is really just 3 different ways of taking times that same medicine. Second stroke, done. You now hold a doctor and a prescription. Next come the 3 doses, 3 texts. But before I introduce them, we're going to do something a little unusual for YouTube. We're going to slow all the way down and listen to what the original words actually sound like. Buddhism left behind a 3-line summary of itself. Later generations called it the 3 marks of existence. Think of them as 3 watermarks of authenticity, used for centuries to verify whether a teaching truly carries the Buddha's meaning. 3 lines, 12 syllables in the classical Chinese, and the entire course you're about to take is folded inside them. Before we listen, do one small thing with me. Sit back. Let your shoulders drop. Take one slow breath in. And let it go. You don't need to understand what you're about to hear. Just listen and notice one thing. Of the 3 lines, which one lands hardest on you? All conditioned things are impermanent. All things are without a fixed self. Nirvana is perfect peace. Once more, and this time I'll leave a small hint after each line. All conditioned things are impermanent. Everything assembled is in motion. Nothing holds still long enough to be kept. All things are without a fixed self-look anywhere, including inside the one doing the looking, and no fixed, unchanging core is found. Nirvana is perfect peace, and if you truly see through the first 2 lines, the story doesn't end in despair. It ends in the deepest quiet there is. So, which line landed? Maybe the first, because something in your life is changing right now and you wish it wouldn't. Maybe the second, because you've been quietly asking, who actually am I, for a while. Maybe the third, because frankly you just want to exhale. Put your answer in the comments, first line, second, or third. There's no correct answer. It's a compass reading, but it will tell you, with surprising accuracy, which part of this course you should watch most closely. Now, Region 3, the texts, and it starts with a fact that should worry you. In 45 years of teaching, the Buddha wrote down precisely nothing, not one word. When he died, at around 80, everything he'd ever taught existed in exactly one storage medium: the memories of the people who'd heard him. So, the question isn't rude, it's essential. 25 centuries later, why should you trust a single sentence of it? Here's why the tradition took that question seriously before you did. Within months of his death, about 500 of his most senior students gathered in a cave near the city of Rajagriha for what's now called the First Council. Center stage was Ananda the Buddha's cousin and personal attendant, famous for a near-photographic memory, who recited, sermon by sermon, everything he had heard over the decades. Each recitation opened with the same 4 words: Thus have I heard. That phrase is essentially a citation tag, a witness statement, not an author's flourish. The assembly checked, corrected, and agreed the official version, line by line. Buddhism's first act after losing its founder was, in effect, a peer review. Quick question, and the answer genuinely surprises people. After that council, how long was this whole body of teaching carried by memory alone before anyone wrote it down? A, about 40 years. B, about 150. C, about 400. 3, 2, 1. The answer is C, roughly 400 years. The teachings were chanted communally, in fixed rhythmic formulas, and group recitation is a self-correcting system. One voice drifts, and the chorus overwrites it on the spot. It was, in effect, the world's first cloud backup, running entirely on monks, with redundancy across whole monasteries. Around the 1st century BCE in Sri Lanka, the texts were finally committed to palm leaf manuscripts, and the age of writing begins. The written collection was sorted into 3 groups that scholars still use. The tradition calls them, charmingly, the 3 baskets. Basket 1. The discourses, the sermons themselves, what he actually said. Basket 2. The rules, the working constitution for monastic communities. Basket 3. The analysis, a later, systematic breakdown of how the mind works. Honestly, proto-psychology. A sutra, by the way, a word you'll hear constantly from here on, just means a recorded teaching. The root sense is thread. Centuries on, these threads traveled the trade roads into China. One monk, Xuanzang, famously walked a 17-year round trip to India to carry texts home and translate them. The result, today, is a library of thousands of texts in multiple languages. Nobody reads all of it. We won't try. For this entire course, we choose exactly 3 books. And here comes the payoff of a promise I made you in the first 2 minutes. Of our 3 texts, the shortest one, how long is it, in its classic Chinese version? A, 260 characters. B, 2,600. C, 26,000. 3, 2, 1. The answer is A, 260 characters. It's called the Heart Sutra, shorter than the last email you sent. Weigh that length against its influence. It may be the most lopsided document in human history, chanted daily for over 1,000 years across half of Asia. It's the entire wisdom tradition, boiled down and boiled down again until only the load-bearing lines remain. That wave and ocean idea from our quiz? This is its home. Unit 1 gives it 4 full lessons by the end. You'll read the whole thing and know what it's saying. Dose 2, the Diamond Sutra. The diamond in the title isn't jewelry, it's the ancient shorthand for the hardest thing there is, the edge that cuts everything and is cut by nothing. Cuts what, exactly? The things you've quietly decided are solid. I'm just the kind of person who, it has to work out this way, or I won't cope. That label is simply who I am. The Heart Sutra shows you that these solid-looking things are built, not given. The Diamond Sutra is the blade that actually cuts them loose. It is the tradition's specialist tool against clinging, and it's Unit 2. Dose 3 is the strangest of all, and the second promise from the top of this lesson. The Platform Sutra is the only text in the entire tradition honored with the title Sutra that was not spoken by the Buddha. It was spoken by a Chinese man, roughly 1,000 years later. His name was Huineng, and he could not read or write. When we meet him, he isn't seated among the scholar monks. He's in the monastery's kitchen yard, pounding rice, doing the heaviest labor on the roster. So how do the words of an illiterate kitchen worker end up shelved beside the Buddha's own? Sit with how wrong that should be. That wrongness is half the answer, and Unit 3 is where it's revealed. Put the 3 doses side by side, and the treatment order appears on its own. The Heart Sutra is for seeing through the world, isn't built the way you assumed. The Diamond Sutra is for letting go once you've seen it. How to stop gripping so hard. The Platform Sutra is for daily use, no monastery, no mountain. How to run all of this inside a life of deadlines, school runs, and traffic. See through, let go, live it out. Keep those 3 phrases, and you're already holding the skeleton of the entire course. Here's the itinerary. 14 lessons, each about half an hour, 1 a week. Unit 0 is this lesson, plus the next today the map, next week the prescription. Unit 1, 4 lessons inside the Heart Sutra. Unit 2, 4 on the Diamond Sutra. Unit 3, 4 on the Platform Sutra, closing with a full review. 14 weeks from now, you'll open all 3 texts and actually read them. The most comfortable way through is in order, because each lesson uses parts installed by the ones before. But if one lesson is the thing you need right now, jump straight to it. Every lesson opens with 1 minute at this same map to reorient you. That's the real reason I keep calling this a map, not a syllabus. A map isn't knowledge, it's a wayfinding tool for when you're lost. Emotions flooding you and you can't tell what's happening in there? That's Lesson 3, the station where we take the machinery of emotion apart. Something you can't stop replaying or gripping? That's Diamond Sutra territory. Different symptom, different station. The map's job is triage. One more request about how to travel. This course is not a lecture series to sit through, and it isn't trivia to collect. It's a set of experiments you run on your own mind. At the end of every lesson, I'll leave you one small, try this once this week, exercise none longer than a minute, and there's one waiting for you tonight. Reading about swimming and getting in the water are not the same activity. The people who run the experiments and the people who only listen are, 3 months from now, 2 genuinely different people. Before we close, pop quiz, 3 questions, fast. 1. The Buddha man or God? 2. His teaching format matches which modern profession? 3. The division of labor between our 3 texts, in 3 phrases. Answers, just as fast. A man, the one who woke up, is a job description, not a name. A doctor symptom, cause, prognosis, prescription. See through, let go, live it out. So here's your haul from Lesson 0. 1-man story palace, 4 sites, middle way, dawn. 1 prescription format, the 4 steps every good doctor still uses. 3 doses of medicine, with names and jobs. And 3 lines of the original text, in your own ears. The map is in your hands now, gray, mostly exactly as it should be. From here, we light it up 1 region at a time. Which brings us to the experiment I promised you at the very start, and it begins tonight. Before you sleep, find 1 thing you are gripping tightly. A person, a situation, an outcome you're anxious about. A sentence someone said that keeps replaying. Any one of them will do. Now, the important part. You are not being asked to let it go. Letting go is a skill we train much later in this course. Forcing it tonight would just give you 1 more thing to grip. Tonight, your entire job is to notice it and quietly name it. Right now, I am holding on to this. That's all. Seeing what your hand is clenched around before trying to open it, that is the first skill of this entire path, and every other skill is built on top of it. If you want to walk the rest of the map, subscribe and turn on notifications 1 region per week. Next lesson, we open that 2,500-year-old prescription and read what it actually says, the 4 noble truths, why the mind keeps manufacturing its own misery, and what, precisely, the doctor ordered. The lesson is called, "The Buddha wasn't a god, he was a doctor." And before you go, tell me in the comments which of today's 3 myths you believed: walking in meat, emptiness, or God. I read every answer, and I'm genuinely curious where your map was wrong. This is Dharma Decoded. Thank you for taking the first step on this map today.